There were some fractured condos early on in this, like later on in the process that you did. Those just were a lot more of a heavy lift with not as much profit as a gut renovated apartment building.
Interesting. And were you managing all this yourself, or you hired outside help at first for third parties management? Or
Yeah, well, great question. I think conceptually early on in our career, we had very limited amount of capital, and we thought about vertical integration for two reasons. One was from one of the reasons was it essentially helped us. We thought it would be during real estate cyclical, and during certain cycles, it would allow you to have reoccurring revenue streams. That was one reason. Second one is you didn't make enough money on just a promote. So if you did $1 million, couple $1 million deal at the time, and then you wait 5 years to try to make a promote, that wouldn't be enough. So generating and being vertically integrated gave you a strong competitive advantage. And so we did our own design architecture, we learned our own construction, we learned our own property management, and it continued on. And that was kind of conceptually why and how we thought about being vertically integrated. And now today, I think it's a very important aspect.
It's totally it's like with those buzzwords you hear, everyone talks about it now.
And we think people use it fairly loosely. I think we do.
Very loosely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And who were your, like, what was the profile of like your first investors?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, early on investors, we had people that had no experience or correlation to real estate, which was an advantage. Yeah. Because in 2008, anyone who knew anything about real estate wouldn't invest in real estate. And so I think you had some high frequency traders, technology friends who had just started successful technology companies. And so you had outside industry people investing into real estate was kind of the early on type of high net worth and angel investors.
This episode is brought to you by Bracket, the AI platform transforming how we underwrite deals. Bracket's broker opinion of value leverages advanced machine learning with a historically validated predictive model to deliver valuations that actually reflect today's market. No more stale BOVs or back of the envelope underwriting. Bracket gives you real-time insights, precision pricing, and confidence to hit the market with speed. Ready to trade smarter? Run your BOVs at no cost at bracketre.com. That's BRACKETRE.com, and put AI on your deal team.
You touched on something before, which I think was a really big precedent to all the development that you did. You said some of the distressed properties that you were buying were historic buildings throughout Chicago. And I know that this was a really big theme in your career. By the way, Alex explained historic tax credits and how to use them to me in maybe 3 minutes. I don't think ChatGPT could do that, the way he broke down the right way to use it. So talk about how that kind of played into, Cedar Street and your early portfolio.
Yeah, we love adaptive reuse. I think from a project standpoint, it's one of the hardest types of projects that we do. It takes the most amount of infrastructure, but we love the end product. It's something that you can never replace. One of the reasons we fell onto it is we bought an old building that was going to be converted to condos. We were walking through it and we needed to figure out what we were going to do. And I think some kid walked through from St. Louis, had experience in historic tax credits. Said, have you ever done this historic tax credit? This would be perfect. And we're like, tell us more, And at that time, the idea behind historic tax credits was for every dollar you spend, you can generate anywhere from 20 to 40% back in the form of a historic tax credit. So if you spent $100 million on renovations, just whatever number, you can get 20 to 40 million in the form of a tax credit. In Illinois or Chicago, it would be 20%. So $20 million. You can then take that $20 million, pass that through to your investors is one way. On our second project, we realized you can sell those tax credits to major corporations like Bank of America, Chase, or other.
Yeah, it's usually banks.
Yeah, right. Banks will pay a premium because they get other types of incentives.
Right. Yeah, banks have the CRE
credits, Community Reinvestment Act. And so you can sell those at like 90 cents on the dollar. And when you sell them, you can sell them in advance and use that as a form of equity. So that became a really important aspect when you're talking about raising capital. You can raise money from high net worth and family offices, and then essentially utilize the remaining capital stack from the historic tax credits. So you can do a lot larger deals with a lot less equity. And we would call that like synthetic leverage. So like equity or mezz that portion that you didn't have to pay back as long as you were in the compliance period. And so that allowed us to do some of the most amazing projects in Chicago. And again, the vertically integrated part, without having a construction and development arm, would be almost impossible to be able to do some of these projects.
What's an example of a project in Chicago that you're especially proud of, or that you thought was just?
You were talking
really
about
creative?
Inflection points. What was the first inflection point project?
So we say this a lot, is like we think of our buildings as like children. And so each building has its own unique characteristics, but they're interrelated. You're not supposed to say which child is always your favorite. But you sometimes have that anyways. And